planning doesn't have to be just for the ultra wealthy. It's for each and every one of us to make sure that we can live a fulfilling life, just using money as a tool to get there, not as the end result.
For so many families, the dream of college comes with a hidden cost. Sleepless nights, tough conversations, and the lingering fear, will this decision impact our future more than we realize? What should feel like hope and possibility often turns into confusion, pressure, and the weight of student debt that can follow families for decades. But what if you could approach this moment with clarity, with confidence, and with a plan that protects both your child's future and your own? Today, I'm joined by Shanna Due, certified financial planner, certified college financial consultant, and founder of Due Financial, who's on a mission to end the student debt crisis one family at a time. She's also the editor of the powerful new book, Even More Than Money, 5 Ways to Design Your Financial Life, a project I'm proud to be a part of, alongside her, helping families make smarter, more meaningful financial decisions. This conversation might just change the way you think about paying for college and your financial life. I'm Larry Sprung, your host for the Mitlin Money Mindset and founder and wealth advisor of Mitlin Financial. Let's dive into the show. Well, I am super excited today to have Shanna Due with us today, and you heard all about her and everything she's up to in the opening, so we'll just dive right in. How are you doing today, Shanna?
I'm doing great, and I am so excited to be here with you, Larry. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah, welcome to the show. We're going to spend time talking about what you're doing in financial services today, and then the book that you are involved with, and all about that. But before we dive into that, can you share with our listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, kind of what led you up to your being so heavily involved in the financial services profession?
Oh, sure. It all started way back when, little Shauna was going off to college and had big, huge aspirations of being the first female NFL trainer. That was my goal when I went to school at 18. So I started on my path to do that. And then, as most people do in college, they kind of figure out what they're really good at, what they're strong at, what really fits in their world, or at least we hope that we do. And as I went to apply for grad school for athletic training, so my professors were like, how about if you looked at maybe doing something else in sport administration, since that's where every time we had a choice of like writing a paper, I always kind of leaned towards either the financial side or risk management or facilities management. And so they said, hey, why don't you do that? So it was great advice. I went into sports administration, learned how to run major facilities, youth sports groups, worked at a professional agent for a while. And I learned a lot about business, how different businesses are run, from, again, those major pro sports all the way down to just like little nonprofit soccer clubs. And then I'm, as happens sometimes, I met the man of my dreams. And he just happened to wear a uniform. And that put us on a trajectory to move about every 2 years through his military career. And at that time, this is pre-remote work. So I was actually doing remote work before it was cool and all the rage. Uh-huh. And I started becoming a consultant for small business and nonprofits because I'd seen how they were run. And what I started to notice was a lot of the things that held people back was their personal finances. Either they were business owners incorporating and mixing the two, using one to support the other with no true direction because they were just accidental business owners. Or we had people in nonprofit that were just so mission driven, they kind of forgot about it. So that's how I started getting involved in personal finance. And then through my practice there of working with all different young professionals, I started hearing this reoccurring theme of people putting things on hold because they had student loans, uh-huh. or being scared to start families because of student loans, or the parents who said, I'll just figure it out. We'll just figure it out. And I was like, there's gotta be a better way to do this. If I could have just talked to them 10 years ago, we wouldn't be where we are today. So that's how I am where today.
Amazing. Well, thank you for your husband's service and your service as well, because being a military family, it's not just on the person who's actually serving, it's on the whole family. So thank you very much for that service and your husband's in particular. Thank you for sharing that. Now, let's dive right in. Your LinkedIn headline says, helping families achieve the best college experience for the least amount of investment. Can you explain how you go about achieving that? Because I think that's vitally important and ties into what you said about the student loan,
Mhm.
issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I start with every family that comes to see me, and we talk about, if I can, I just use an analogy of a three-pronged table, essentially. And we start by building what we want on that table. And I ask families to include the student. You're about to spend 4 years of your life. And to students, that's forever, right? 4 years is a huge amount of time. And potentially 30 years of an investment, depending upon how long we have to take loans out for. So, what is it we want to get out of that? Why do you want to do this? What are the expectations of the parents or anyone else who's contributing to that education? And what does the student want out? And that's what we put on the table. So, whether that's getting actual knowledge about a career, some self development, critical thinking skills, community, whatever it might be that that family wants out of that experience, we put on the table. And then we talk about the three factors that go into actually achieving that. And that's that academic fit, that social fit, and then the part I really focus on, the financial fit. Will this institution that you're looking at spending this time and money, your huge finite capital in your life, will you be able to get that at that place? And then how do we do it for the least amount of money possible? And do all three of those fit together? Because if those three don't fit together, the academic, social, and financial, the table won't stay up and everything will slide off the top. So that's how I work with families at the beginning, is what do we want out of that experience? And then how are we going to pay for it and hopefully spend the least amount of money to do that, so that we have money for other things later.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that families, probably one of, if not the largest investments that they make, maybe some cases outside of their home, buying a house, and, they spend more time buying a car, which costs significantly less, and doing more research on that than they do on the college process, which seems like where you really come in and help them fill that gap, because they probably don't know really, right?
Mm-mm, they don't. And I usually start my presentations that I do at various schools and organizations with, we tend to tell our students, hey, why don't you go out and find this thing that could cost upwards of $400,000, because we've crossed the $100,000 mark at some schools per year. And if you have multiple, just as you mentioned, like if you have multiple children, this will be next to your retirement, it will be the most expensive thing you pay out in your lifetime. And so we tell, I'm like, would you just tell your son or daughter to go out and find a car, and they come back with a Lamborghini, and you're like, yeah, sure, no problem. That's a good plan. But we do that every day with our students. We're like, go out,
True.
find a school, and we'll make it work. And
True.
most of us do not have the checkbook that can support that.
Yeah. Deciding on what college to attend really can be a very stressful time, not only for the student, but for the families as well. You talked about seeing student loans coming up, many times, and that kind of leading in direction. But what was really the impetus? Why did you decide to specialize in working with these types of families at this critical point, especially one where it's extremely stressful for the student and the family?
I think that's the key right there. Again, I saw people, 10 years after the fact, or for families as they're about to just say, we'll just figure it out. And because we're dealing with these huge numbers, I mean, these are 6-figure numbers, they're huge. It's too late to just figure it out then. And the impact that it has, what it can do to a family over 30 years. And I think it's really hard. And as parents, I mean, Larry, I know you have kids, I have kids. It is a huge emotional decision to do this. And we want most parents, I can't think of any parent who doesn't, wants the very best. And we want to provide the best that we can. But that sometimes gets clouded by what those long-term impacts could be. So what we think is the best today, a particular school, that could not be the best over 30 years. But it's so hard as a parent in these moments, in these emotional times of they're getting ready to leave. You're having that last concert, that last time they take the field, whatever those emotions are. And I know you've been there, Larry, and I
Right.
just graduated my first one this year, like
Me
2
too.
weeks ago. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
you get so wrapped up in all those emotions that to try and break it down to this really rational number is hard. So having someone who can sit back, help you identify those things that are important, and then actually see what that number is, I think is so valuable to stay on track when those emotional decisions are coming up. Because it's so hard to look at your son or daughter and be like, yeah, we can't do that.
I mean, Shanna, we had a family that we work with that I've known for quite a while. And unfortunately, they didn't get us in the college planning process early enough. And like a week before their decision was made, I got a call because the wife was in tears. The husband didn't know where to turn. And their daughter had been accepted to 2 private universities, one where she got a substantial amount of money and one she did not. And I would say academically, probably somewhat equal to a lot of degrees. But the daughter wanted to go to the school where she didn't get the financial assistance that she got at the other one. And, you know, the husband was saying to me, you know, we explained to her the difference in that how much we can pay versus how much she's going to have to take out in student loans and debt. And the wife was looking for other avenues to borrow money, et cetera. And that's why she was concerned. And at the end of the day, I said to him, I said, you know, your daughter's willing to take on this debt. And he said, yeah, we explained it to her. And I've known this person for a very long time. And I said, hey, think about your 17, 18-year-old self.
Yeah.
Could you, you know, taking on $200,000 or $300,000 worth of debt, did you really understand what that would mean or what that meant? And he was like, probably not. He's like, but she says she's going to get a really good job out of school and be able to pay it off super fast. And I'm like, don't you think everybody else thinks that same way? And I think that's like a case in point where, you know, if everything else is being equal, you kind of go to the school that's going to give you the most financial support so that you don't end up in a position with these huge, you know, loans and student debt when all's said and done.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I really encourage families, especially when I go out and do presentations, is whether you come to me or someone else, your financial advisor, whoever, start early. Because if we can start in even 8th grade, 9th grade, when, you know, we're just dreaming about college at that point, right? But we can start having conversations with our students of this is what we as a family can commit to. This is what your resources are. Here's what life looks like afterwards. And then one thing I do with all my families too is we look at, okay, so, you know, we'll just, you know, we'll call your client Amy, right? Amy, let's look at what that really means because it is so, I mean, there are not very many 17-year-olds out there that can truly wrap their head around 6-digit numbers. Yeah. And even parents, when I project out, okay, if you borrow $100,000 for 4 years of school, which really isn't that much when you think about it, it's only $25,000 over the course of 4 years. And when schools are, you know, the price tag is 50, 60,000 and you get a scholarship, you get some aid, 25,000 is not a huge number to borrow right now. Right. I mean, it is a huge number. Let's not fool ourselves. And then if you take that on for 25 years at a 6% interest rate, that's almost double. So now we're looking at $200,000 for an undergraduate education. And when you look at the starting salary from both of those schools, they're probably on par, right? Even if we look at extreme Ivies, I don't put MIT in there because that's ridiculous. But when we look at the same degree from 2 different institutions, whether it's state or private, there's not much difference between the two. So what I try and do with students to say, okay, Amy, when you get out of college, you're going to make $65,000 a year. And to a 17-year-old, that is rolling, right? That's amazing. And we hope so. And we hope that they will get a $65,000 job. Now let's take taxes off. Okay, so that's what you're actually going to bring home. So let's say that's, please don't check my math on this, anybody out there, but let's say that's $4,000 a month. But your student loan payment is $1,500. $1,500 doesn't seem like a lot when you're 17, or maybe it does. So now we went from 4,000 to 2,500. Okay. That's still for a 17-year-old who's been making $10, you know, scooping ice cream, like that's rolling. But then I start saying, okay, so where do you think you might want to live? Atlanta? Okay. What's the average price? We do just a quick mini little budget. What's a 1-bedroom apartment in Atlanta? Maybe it's $1,000 a month. Okay. So now our 1,500, we're now down to 500. Will you need a car where you're going to live? Okay. How about a phone bill? Because we're not living off mom and dad anymore.
Right.
And really that practice of just looking what that big number is and then bringing it down to a number, sometimes that clicks.
Yeah.
The other huge part of that clicks is when I start showing parents who say, like you and I, we'll just call us 50 just for roundabout numbers. If I say I'm going to help my student, like my son who just graduated, if I say, I'll help you out, honey, I'll pay $25, 25 years worth of loans for you. I'm now 75.
Right.
Paying a student loan while I want to retire and maybe, and now I'm in a cabin in Arkansas, eating cat food. But sometimes when you can break it down into an actual tangible number, it helps put it in perspective. And if I start those conversations really early, we maintain expectations so that when Amy's got the 2 offers on the table, she already knows okay, I'm not wearing blue. Blue didn't give me enough money. I am crimson red. I love red.
So important. And, that's one of the reasons why with my boys, we started those conversations around the financial aspect of college, like in early middle school. So they understood what we were willing to do, what we were, and we just continued to reinforce that. What do you wish more families knew about the college planning process that might not be as well known?
I wish that they knew that every institution, university, college, whatever you want to call them, is essentially a business. And they all have a very unique business model. And it's important to figure out what their model is. So some schools are very generous with financial aid from a need base. Like if your family makes X amount of money, they're more than willing to give dollars for that. Some other schools don't give any need-based aid. Like state schools, they don't have a whole lot of extra money. And then there's merit-based. And that's where some schools give out a ton at merit-based. Those second tier, still fabulous private schools, really solid schools, they will use discounts, merit-based aid to entice you to come. Ivy Leagues or Ivy adjacent, they don't give any merit. They just don't. They don't have to.
Right.
So I wish more families understood that it's a business. And as soon as you understand that there's a business model, then you can shop. For lack of a better term, you can be a smarter or a better consumer and find the best deal to get the best product.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I talk about being in business, all the time. And I've said even on this show, we talked about like when they made SAT scores optional, that was like a windfall for the schools because they just got more applications, more application fees, and those monies went straight to the bottom line in order to pay for the admissions office for the year. So, they are businesses and they're tremendous marketing organizations. So
oh my gosh,
they're very good at what they do.
Trillions of dollars going out. I mean,
crazy.
I mean, you're like my household. I've got 2 right now because I just have my senior just graduated and I've got a junior. The amount of shiny, glossy, I mean, the mailbox is full every day.
Yeah,
and they just go straight into the trash because my daughter's like, nope, not going.
Let's pause for a moment. What actually brings you joy? It's something most people never think about, yet it shapes how your life unfolds. You're busy. You make responsible choices. You even plan ahead. But have you slowed down long enough to ask if what you're building supports a life you enjoy living? That's the reason I built my YouTube channel, to help you bring more joy to your money journey. Sure, we'll talk about all the essentials, but my real goal is to help you connect your finances with what brings you joy, because money is the tool that funds the moments that matter. If you want to explore that connection more deeply, visit my YouTube channel at Larry Sprung. Let's pivot to the book now. You're the editor, or maybe I should better say it, the chief cat herder for the book, Even More Than Money, 5 Ways to Design Your Financial Life. This is the book coming out in July. So people it should be out now if you're listening to this, so you'll be able to go get it. Why, with everything you have going on, why did you take on the project, for this?
This project started with the first book, which is called More Than Money, back in 2022. And we did it through the Advisors Growth community. And it just came from a member's idea that we have all these advisors with like-minded practices not working as island, but working together. We should write a book. So we had an interest meeting, if you will, of like, if we wrote a book, what would we write it about? Who would the audience be? Just all that. And I went to the meeting, not because I thought I'm a career changer to this field. And I was like, oh, I'm in the room with people who have 20, 30 years experience, wonderful practices. I don't really have anything to contribute. I just want to be in the room. I want to hear the conversation and see what comes of this. And then Taylor and Justin were like, we need someone that could like organize the meetings and kind of go point. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I'll raise my hand for that. And then the next thing I knew, our little self-published idea that we had became a book that Harriman House was willing to take on as one of their published books. And so that's what started it. And I'm really proud of that book. However, we thought about doing the next one. I thought, what would make it better? What could we do? And that's how we came up with Even More Than Money. And I think all the contributors, we all worked together to do the 5 areas, to come up with the reflective questions, to come up with the actual action items, to come up with the 90-day plan, how to design your financial life. I'm so excited about it. I think the first book was good, but this one it's even more than money. It's even better.
I'm really happy to report that I was one of those authors that you helped guide through the process. And I guess I'm grateful that I was in the better of the 2 books. I don't know, but it's been great. The process has been great. Your feedback and guidance really transformed the story that I included, which was about losing my brother-in-law Keith to suicide. And we titled the chapter, Why Didn't I Know He Could Die? And that was in the Money is for Enduring chapter, and I think there are a lot of great segments, a lot of great stories within the book itself. At the end of the day, what do you hope that readers are going to take away from the stories that are contained in this book?
Well, first of all, I felt so just privileged that I was able to work with you and Denise on this story for Keith and to share Keith's story. And just like how you and Denise have worked so hard to keep Keith's memory alive in a way that is impacting other lives. It's having that ripple effect, which is kind of what the book is for. And all the stories in the book are there to show that these are ordinary people. Not that you are ordinary, but these are just regular families trying to figure out how to use their money to get the most out of life, whether it's living today, going through transitions, or dreaming and then giving and then having that enduring legacy. So I want readers to come away with that planning doesn't have to be just for the ultra wealthy. It's for each and every one of us to make sure that we can live a fulfilling life, just using money as a tool to get there, not as the end result. And I think your story in particular shows how unique through kind of not necessarily unconventional, but looking outside of a traditional way of how to keep Keith's memory going. And again, impact other people to keep that ripple going. I mean, what a legacy that can continue to go on and on through just a very unique financial planning method. How part of what I love about what you've done with Keith's legacy is it's a very simple concept. I mean, just starting a fund within a larger organization, simple, but so impactful. And I'm not sure that all families would have done that without some assistance or seeing that it's possible. So that's what I want readers to walk away with, what can I do today? And the book offers a ton of opportunity to see that in action, as well as then do it for themselves.
Yeah, and there are so many great stories, just so our listeners know, how many stories compile the book in total?
There are 19 total stories, each from, and it's funny, a lot of them, we broke it down into 5 sections. There's living, changing, dreaming, giving, and of course, enduring. But so many of the stories could have gone in any of the sections because we're talking about how to use money for today, as well as how to make things happen, how to share it, and then how to keep it going forever, if that's what you want.
Right. Yeah, I think the important thing here that I took away from the book itself really was, this is not what I would call your traditional book put out by an advisor about giving you tools about what you should be doing, how you should be saving money, how much you should be saving money. Because at the end of the day, the money, like you said, is just a tool to do these things. And we talked about those things that people should be thinking about doing with the money they've accumulated and their lives, which I think at the end of the day gives a lot more meaning to the hard work and the dedication and being responsible and being persistent in putting away the money to have it there for these various things in their life. And sometimes people have a hard time understanding what they can and can't do potentially. And I think this does a really good job of outlining a lot of those areas that some maybe they thought about and will inspire them and give them food for thought. And others they may not have ever even thought were possible and may give them some ideas for, future goals, right?
Absolutely. And I'm hoping that when readers read the book, they'll also, I don't know, almost it's like a permission, like almost like we're genies granting you wishes, and not in, an irresponsible way, but just there's an opportunity to think outside of these traditional rules of thumb of, save this amount of money or do this. It's a trite example that you and I have probably seen on, podcast after podcast about paying off your mortgage. Like, does that make the most financial sense on a spreadsheet, or does it make sense to a family? And there is a story in the book about why would they pay off their mortgage? Why would you do that? Does it make financial sense? Sometimes it doesn't, but we're going to grant you permission to do what makes you feel good at night, to make you sleep well at night. Or whether it's transitioning a business, there's all these rules out there that the, CEPAs will tell you, but sometimes it's about what's right for your family and managing those relationships within the family between maybe siblings, one who wants to run the business and one who doesn't. And how do you incorporate all that? Because those rules of thumb, they're good guides, but they don't always answer the question.
I agree.
So, yeah, I hope the readers understand that and they look at it as an opportunity to have conversations. Every chapter has questions at the end of it to self-reflect on. And hopefully, if you have a partner, to talk to your partner about. Like, there's one in there I love. It's one of my favorite questions. But if money and time weren't a consideration, what would you do?
Right.
What would you do?
Yep.
And that's just a fun conversation to have with your partner. Like, what would you do? And then we can start breaking that down. And the book helps to do that of, then could it be possible? Like, what would it take? And what would you be willing to sacrifice to make that happen, to get what you want? That's just fun. Like, that's just a fun exercise.
Yeah. Well, I think it also adds meaning and clarity as to why you should be thinking about saving money or putting it away and compounding. So it gives you that motivation. So I think that's super important. One of the things that I wanted to talk about also, because you've just gone through the publishing process, and it's not an easy one. I had my own full book in 2023. You just went through this now through the publishing process, really for the second time with a group like this. What advice do you have for those who are aspiring to be authors, maybe think they have a book idea, want to be an author, haven't pulled the trigger? What advice do you have for them, especially since it's something you just really wrapped up doing?
Yeah, I think the first one is, we talk about this in our financial lives and probably other things, whether you're training for, a competition or whatever, is like, why are you doing it? Because there will be moments throughout the writing, the editing, and the editing, and the editing process of, why am I doing this? Because if you don't have a good reason why, it makes that process that much harder. And so when I was sitting here at my desk going, I just can't edit this stuff anymore. Like, I have read about Rocky and Lou and, everyone else, and I love the stories, but like, I just don't want to do it anymore. I'm like, no. I want to make an impact. I want to let people know. I wanted other advisors, and we all wanted other advisors to know there's a way to do this that puts clients first, not products first or something like that. We wanted other advisors out there to see that you can do it this way. And I just kept thinking, like, I'm an advisor to college students, and there's a college student out there that needs to know there's a way to do this planning that is client focused. And so then I'd be like, okay, That's my why. Let's do this. And then all the proceeds for this book are going back to Third Decade, which provides pro bono financial planning to families and people who need it for a course of 2 years. They build 2-year relationships. It's called Third Decade. And I thought of all the families that we can help to, again, create that ripple, that generational, like if parents can kind of get their finances figured out, then their kids will be better. And then having that why, I was like, okay, we can motor through this. So that's probably the first thing I would say. And then the second thing to aspiring authors, just sit down and start writing and stop telling yourself you're an aspiring author. Like, let's become authors. Let's just do it and get it done. Like, stop saying I'm thinking about it. Just sit down and write. Yeah. Just do it right now.
Great advice. So after you're done listening to the episode, go and start putting those words on the computer and working in the direction of getting that book and move from aspiring author to being an author. I think those are great tips. So, well, Shanna, from listening to our show and knowing about us at Mitlin Financial that number one, we're all about joy. Number two, we end each of our shows asking all of our guests the same final question, and that's going to apply here too. And that is, what did you do today that brought you joy and put you in the right mindset for success?
Every day, and I do have to say, Larry, to everyone who's listening, Larry and Denise were so kind to send me a shirt with what did you do that brought you joy today? And I wear it to the dog park. It's my dog park shirt because it starts so many conversations.
It does.
I love that. So thank you very much for that shirt. I've had amazing conversations because of it. But every day I grew up near the mountains. And that was my azimuth. I could wake up in the morning. We do everything. I grew up in Colorado and to the east of the mountains. So west is our azimuth. Like every time you give directions, you go towards the mountains. And I don't live there anymore, but I do live amongst the trees. And so I go out every day, even if it's just for 5 minutes, hopefully it's a lot longer. And I just stand amongst the trees. And it reminds me with the dirt under my feet. And I can hear the trees, either the pine needles clicking or the oak leaves, rustling. It just grounds me every day so that when I come back in, I know where I'm at in this world and what I can do to, again, hear those ripples. So that's where I find joy every day, is out amongst the trees.
Sounds amazing, and brings me joy even thinking about mountains and trees. So thank you for sharing that. So Shanna, we're going to have all of your information in the show notes, all the information for the book in the show notes as well. But if people want to learn more, what's the easiest and the best place for them to go get the book and learn more about what you do with college students?
The book is easy. You can Google it. You can go to Amazon. You can go to your local Barnes & Noble or your local bookseller. It should be out July 21st. So before that, you can pre-order. After that, just go. Like I said, you'll find it at any of your major booksellers. And then to learn more about me, which I would love to talk to you, is at duefinancial.com. It's that simple.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Go out, get your copy of Even More Than Money, 5 Ways to Design Your Financial Life. You'll see my story in there about my brother-in-law, Keith. Thank you so much for including it, Shanna. And we are very grateful that we were a part of this project. And go learn more if you have kids in or approaching college. Go check out Shanna's Due Financial to learn more about how you can align and make the best investment for your college-age students. So thank you so much, Shanna. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to share with us, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. This was amazing. Thanks, Larry. And thank you so much for the story. It was so good for the book.
If today's conversation sparked something for you, whether it was clarity, relief, or even a little discomfort, that's a good thing. Because the decisions we make around college and money don't just impact the next 4 years, they shape decades. Shanna Due reminded us that with the right guidance, you don't have to choose between your child's future and your own financial security. You can design both with intention. And through her work and as the editor of Even More Than Money, 5 Ways to Design Your Financial Life, she's helping families move from stress and uncertainty to purpose, confidence, and control. Be sure to pick up your copy today. So maybe the question isn't just how will we pay for college? Maybe it's How do we want our financial life to feel? Shanna Due and all she's up to can be found across most social media platforms. All the contact information needed to find them can be found in the show notes.